Okay, so today's session number 23. So next week, I will remind only one session to end this semester. And so I guess today and tomorrow we will be able to finish section 3. And so next semester we will start section 4. Next semester we will start by reviewing all what we did in this semester as quickly as possible. Usually it takes a few weeks. And so then next semester we will start section 4 on déséquivalentization. Okay, so yesterday we finished the proof of lemma 3.34, so the Verline formula in the non-spherical case. So the proof was finished this way, but I said I will write a few details more. So the few details more are the following. So we have an equality between, so remember, we evaluated in two different ways this picture. So this equality is due to the hexagon axiom. So we evaluated that, and then the equality between the two. So you have that equal to something. So where is it? So this. So we have something like that here. So this is equal to that. So next we start from here. So we evaluate that, and we get that. So we can shift this and this. We get that. So we get this, and we know. So here we have a sum over k. So let me write. It's a sum over k. So that's why we have the sum over k here, which should be the trace as an exercise. And so, so you make the sum. So you make this sum here, you get this you can put it out, so you get this sum, this is just trace. So if you combine everything together, you get d minus x for the from the left-hand side, d plus z s tilde xy s tilde xz equal d minus x sum omega c d plus omega, the trace s tilde x w. And then you can simplify this one with this one. It's non-zero. So d1x is non-zero. So you get, so you can put together this and this, you put it there. So you get the renormalization we discussed yesterday. So you get s tilde x y s tilde xz equals sum for w simple in C d plus omega, d plus w divided by d plus y d plus z. T y z w s tilde x w. And this is nothing, but this is equal to n by definition. By definition. So we are done. We are done. We get exactly the Verline formula in the non-spherical case we expected. Okay. So just a remark about the literature. So this was done in the pivotal case by Muger. So in the pivotal case, let me try to write better the proof of the previous lemma. Reduce to a computation by Muger. Muger. Of course, what we did above is more general, but it should be I should follow at least the idea of Muger. Okay, so remember we are in the section 3.4 dedicated to proving a previous theorem. So let me come back to the context here. So this subsection is dedicated to prove theorem 3.4. Remember, the rank of the S-Til matrix truncated for D is exactly the number of D prime components. So we are considering the column of this submatrix as a function like that, and we are considering this inner product structure here. And so the lemma we just proved will be used. So this Verline formula will be used to prove the orthogonality, to prove the following result. So we will show in lemma 336 that if two simple objects lie in the same D prime component, then the corresponding function, so the corresponding column, are equal as a vector. And we will show after that if they lie in different components, then the inner product will be 0. So they are orthogonal. And for that, we will use the Verline formula. So for the first lemma, I guess we don't use Verline formula. Let me check. No. But for the next lemma, we will use. So 3 orthogonality of column in the submatrix S tilde index D. In the submatrix. So it was written in equation 32 of the S tilde matrix. This submatrix is what we denoted S tilde matrix index D. Okay. So, first lemma. So, saying that if two simple objects lie in the same D prime component, then their corresponding column are equal as vector, or in other words, the corresponding function are equal. So let B in C be a fusion category. Bien subcategory. Category. Suppose y the simple lie in the same D prime component. Component of C. Then the corresponding function, so the corresponding column, are the same. Okay. And we will make a pictorial proof. So first we need the setup, and then we will make the pictorial proof. So you take say an element in the centralizer. Maybe we need to take it. Maybe not. We may not need to take it simple. So they lie in the same component. So we know by definition of the equivalence class that there is such an element. So that Y is a subobject of the tensor W. So you consider the projection, denote it like that, from the tensor W to Y. Be a projection. And the inclusion, so I, Y, the tensor W, from Y to the tensor W. Be an inclusion. And you can choose both such that the composition is the identity of W. P. This is completely clear by semi-simplicity. The existence of this projection and inclusion. Okay. This is exactly saying that Y, this assumption, in the non-semi-simple case, this assumption is just saying that Y is a split subobject of that. But by semi-simplicity, every subobject split. So you always have this. Okay, so okay. So we will use these two morphisms to compute the entry S till XY. So then, for any simple object in D, we compute S till XY, which is, by definition, remember, like that. CYX compose CXY divided by. So this is the definition. And we will make a picture to prove that it's equal to that, which is exactly what we want to show, which means that every entry of the corresponding column is the same. In other words, the corresponding function, which is made by this entry, are the same. So we will provide a pictorial proof just now. And let me write that we omit the the algebraic proof in the paper, because they made a purely algebraic proof, but in fact, I did not even try to read it. It's too complicated to me. Everything reduced to picture, and it's much more readable as a picture. Okay, so we will focus on this. So we will make a picture for that. So trace minus tensor, trace, plus trace plus cyx compose cxy is equal to what? So the picture is the following. So here we did not put did not divide by the dimension. We will consider this dimension at the end. So phi x, so the natural isomorphism here, the double braiding. And then, did I make a mistake here about the sign? Let me check. So maybe, well, it does not matter, but it should be -1 here and plus here. Minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. I hope I did not make a mistake. Should be okay. So we have that. And then you close. So this is the definition. Now, we will consider this part. So we have, so we will use this identity. So we know identity of y is equal to that. But you have identity of y here. Identity of y. So we will replace we will replace this y, identity of y equal like that. So the I, y, z tensor w, z w, p, y, z tensor w. Here it's y and y. Okay, so you have that. So you replace this piece by that. But you have that. So just let me just write it this way. So directly y like that. Okay, so you use that, and you use the same trick as yesterday. We will use, so you replace, you put this here, and you will keep one piece, one part here, and the other part will go through by naturality. And we will also use, so then you will have something in between. So then in between, you will, when you will put this above and this in the bottom, in between you will have a tensor product. So you will have a double string like that. So you will also automatically develop it by the hexagon axiom. So if you apply both, you get, so this is equal to, here you apply naturality of the braiding plus hexagon axiom, you get something like that. So phi, so this is unchanged. Okay, so you keep the inclusion on the top. Okay, and then you have the projection in the bottom. Projection, the tensor value, and so you have that. And so I realize that I'm missing some space. Let me try to arrange that. Okay, this I can move a bit. Okay, so it should be okay now. We have that, and you have y, phi y here. And so in between, you have so now you have the double thing here with you will have to do the double braiding with the double. I realize I still need more space. Okay, let me try. Move that bit like that. This here. Okay, so you have the double braiding. So you have something like that. So you have this, and here you have the double braiding, etc. But, and then you will do that and do that. But we want to apply, so we get that because we apply the naturality, we put it down, and we will automatically apply the hexagon axiom directly. So you get the following. So first, we have the double thing. So you first make the braiding with this one. Then the braiding here. Again here. And then the braiding here. Okay. And this will be closed like that. And this one go there. No, so it needs two string. So this one and this one. Okay. And then we close this way. Okay. So I hope it's clear. Now, here you have X, and here you have W. So you have a double braiding with X and W, but remember, by definition, W is in the centralizer of D, and X is in D. So this double braiding is the identity by definition. Identity of X tensor W, since W is in the centralizer and X is a simple object in D, but in fact any object in D work. Don't need to be simple. Okay, so then you can replace this double braiding by an identity. So, so let me do that. So let me just copy and paste to here. So this is equal to, remove that. Oh, too much. Like that. No. Cannot get it. Does not matter. Okay, so you put the identity now. Identity. Oh, maybe I will remove this one also. Identity. Okay, come that. Now we will use the same trick as before for this part. Remember, this is something from Z to Z. So this is Z, this is Z. So this is nothing but a multiple constant of the identity of Z, since Z is simple. So we already did that before, this kind of trick. So this is equal to, let me put it on the left. So this is equal to using the same trick as before. So as for star, the star refers to a star I put yesterday. So this is just this part. This star refers to the fact that this part is just the identity time a constant, and we can evaluate the constant. So this is exactly as before. So you get S tilde xz d minus x. Okay, and then you have, so you replace, and then you have the identity here. So it's as follow. I z tensor W P. So imagine to do that algebraically. It will be really a mess. Unreadable. And like, okay. But we know that this is, this one is the identity of Y. And so, because it is the identity of Y, you can replace it by that. So we can just, this is just a trace of Y. So dimension of Y. So this is equal to S xz tilde dimension minus x dimension plus of y. Okay. So let me show you again. So we want to show that this, so we want to show this. So we want, this definition is defined by this entry of the STIL matrix. So we want to show every entry are equal. We want to show this equal this for all x in simple in D. We want to show this equal this. So you start from that. So this is this picture. You replace the identity by that using this. This is a projection, the inclusion. Okay. So you put this here, and then you move this part here by naturality, and you keep it there. And then you use hexagon action to develop this part, because now you have a double string here. You get that. And now you see exactly what happened. You get a double reading between X and W. But by assumption, X is in D and W is in the centralizer of D. Because Y and Z are in the same component. So you directly see what happened at the pictorial level. Once you have, so the trick is to use that. And then you develop everything using naturality and hexagon action, and you get this triviality here, identity. So identity, and then you use the trick, because this is a multiple constant of the identity here. And the constant is computed this way, so you have identity. Then you come back to that, which is identity. So you get identity, so this is just the dimension of that. So you get that. So we started from that, you get that. So if you divide, you put this here, you divide, you get that, so you get that. You get S tilde xy equal S tilde xz, which is exactly what we wanted to show. So we are done. Conclusion. S xy tilde equal S xz tilde. Which is exactly what we wanted to prove. Okay, so we did not use a Verline formula. We will use a Verline formula for the next lemma. Lemma 337. So if you have two simple objects which lie in different D prime components, then their functions are orthogonal for the inner product defined before. So for y, z simple, we have the inner product of h, y, h, z is equal to 0, if and only if. So I said I try to write better. If and only if y and z lie in different D prime components of C. So proof. Okay. So just you fix one simple object, and you suppose you take another one which is not in the same component, like in a different component. Then y. Okay. Then the inner product. So by definition, it is the sum for x simple in D of square norm of x, s tilde x, y, s tilde x, yeah, x star z. So remember, or maybe let me write first this way. By definition, is y x like that. Okay. So this is so here is just the definition. I should not write this way because so definition. Again, definition of the function. This was definition of inner product. This is definition of the inner product, and here it will be the definition of the function h. So x here of square norm s x y tilde s x star z tilde. And here we need exercise s, this is equal to that. So we can move the star from x to z. Okay, then, so you will use that. Okay, so this is equal to, so you use that, and you use also lemma 334, so the Verline formula, to get that it is equal to, so I need more space. Let's see if I can write. No. Let me try to move a bit everything. That should be enough. Okay, so sum. So you apply the Verline formula. Here, so remember the Verline formula, you have the same x and x. That's why we need to put the star here. Okay, so sum. This is the same. No, this is not the same. So we apply the Verline formula, and also we will get a sum here. So this we develop as a sum of something, and we will exchange these two sums. So sum of that, you have the coefficient of the Verline formula. N, Y, Z star now, because we put this star. So X simple in D, norm, and X like that. Okay. Okay, so this is equal to what? And now, here we will need some, so I need to recall equation 30 and 31 we mentioned before. Equation 30 and equation 31, which refer to a result proved in the appendix. So W is a simple object in the centralizer if and only if S tilde X W equal 1 for all X simple in D. And 31 is saying that W is not simple in the centralizer if and only if the sum for simple object in D of the square norm of S tilde X W equals 0, which is also equivalent to sum of X in D S tilde WX like that. So of course, this is a number. So you can put it on the left, on the right. It does not matter, but it's just a reference to say which one you apply. If you apply, so just for to remember, so equals 0. So you have the first version, and the second version. Okay. So for this specific, so for now we will use for this here for this part we will use this and the first here. So what happened? You have this sum. It's a sum over D of that. So you can say, okay. So if W is not in the centralizer, this sum will be equal to 0. So you only need to keep the W which are in the centralizer to get non-zero. But when it is in centralizer, this is equal to 1. So you just get the sum of the square norm, so you just get the dimension of D. So by applying this to, you get the following. So it is equal to the sum omega in this way, and y z star, and here I forgot omega W, and then, so you see, sum x in D, simple in D, square norm. So as I said, you replace C by D, concentrizer of D, using, because you can, the rest is equal to 0, and you replace that by 1 because of that. Okay, so this is equal to, so this is nothing but the dimension, categorical dimension of the subcategory D. So this is equal to categorical dimension of D, sum for omega for W in simple in the centralizer of N Y Z star W. But by assumption, Y and Z are not in the same component. In particular, for all W in the centralizer of D, so what do we want? So here we cannot have, so if, yeah, okay. So we know this is equal to 0. Because this is, so we know that So let me see. Remember yesterday we said that if so wait. So let me write maybe this column. This is equal to 0. By assumption, so everything is equal to 0. By assumption, Z is not a sub-object of Y tensor W. So, the multiplicity space Y W Z is equal to 0. And here, so what should we do? I would say that this is equal to N. If you apply you have something like that. Okay. So what we want is that. So I guess we can. So okay. So W. Wait, let me think 1 minute. W. So this is a multiplicity. So in N Y Z star W is a multiplicity of W in Y tensor Z star. So if you apply the Frobenius reciprocity, you have so NYZ star W equal NW Z Y. So Y is less than W tensor Z. Okay. But it is braided, so the tensor is, so we should not write this way. Okay, so I will erase that. And then we will make the pause. I forgot to make the pause. So this is equal to 0. Here, N Y Z star W equal to 0. So N Y Z star W equals 0 because you have N Y Z star, so without tilde, which is equal to N W like that by Frobenius reciprocity. This is equal to N Y Z W because it's braided. So braided imply commutative Grothendieck ring. So you can commute. And this is different from 0 if and only if Y is a sub-object of Z tensor W, if and only if Y and W lie in the same component. But they are not in the same component. So you say it is equal to 0 if and only if they are not like that, if and only if they lie in different components for all W. Here we have for all W. So y and z line is different component here for all w. Okay, so this is 0. But we know that if this is 0, so if this is 0, then this is 0, because this, then the multiplicity space corresponding to that is 0. And so this, which is, remember, this is a renormalization of the trace of a matrix of an endomorphism between this multiplicity space of that is also 0. So this is 0, we mentioned that yesterday. So this is equal to 0 here. And okay, so we have this equal to 0. So we proved one way, but we proved that if they lie in different components, then we have that. And now we will prove after the pause the other way. So the pause is 10 minutes delayed, but it does not matter. So pause. Pause. 16, 20. Okay, so now let's prove the other side. So we will want to show that if they lie in different, no, what did we show? So we show that if they lie different, then it's equal to 0. Now we want to show that if it is equal to 0, then it lie in different components. To prove this implies this. And we will make a proof by contradiction. We will assume this and the fact and the negation of this. And we'll get a contradiction. So now assume for contradiction that there exists Z0 in the same D prime component as Y, such that H, so the inner product, is equal to 0. Okay. So we know that for any other Z in this component, we know that the function is the same by the previous lemma. By lemma 336, it follows that this inner product is equal to 0 for all simple object Z in the D prime component of Y, since Hz0 equal Hz by this lemma. Okay. So thus for all simple object in C, so we have 0 which is equal to this inner product for all Z in this component, which by definition is this. Again, we use the same exercise to move the star. Be careful, you have to move the star. First, we have the star here, and then we input the star here. Okay, and then, so what about now? Now, we will multiply both sides by the square norm of z. Square norm of z. Square norm of z. So wait. So you multiply by square norm of z, okay. And then you make the sum for all this z. Okay. So here you still have 0. Okay. Okay. So we are doing like that. So multiplying both sides by square norm of z, summing over all the simple objects and applying equation 30 and 31, but for the 31, we will use the second version here to get, we obtain so 0 equal. Okay, so let me write more details. So sum. So we do exactly what we wrote. We make the sum of square norm of z, sum of that. Just do what is written. Here you change the variable. You because okay, you make a sum over all z. So if you replace z by z star, it is invariant. And we know that the square norm of z star equals the square norm of z. So change of variable z to z star and square norm of z equal the square norm of z star. If you do that, you can do that as an exercise if you like, but I guess we already mentioned that. You get so sum for x simple in D. So you permute the sum square sx like that, z s tilde x z, no more z star because we change the variable, and we do like that. It's okay. Now here is a trick. This is equal to, so this sum over all the simple object, you can say is the sum for the simple object which are both in D and in the centralizer of C, plus the sum simple object which are in D but not in the centralizer of C, You do that. So you just replace this by this. You decompose. So this is equal to what? And here we apply equation 30 and equation 31, but the second version. Okay. So what? You get, so when this, regarding that, okay, you have x which is not in C prime. So if you look at that, so maybe I made a mistake here. Here it's in C. Yeah. So we make the sum for all Z in C. And if you consider only the summand when X is not in C prime. So if you apply this one here, where is it? Here, you get, so here we replace, here it's for D, but we do it for C. So not in C prime now, you have 0. So this summand, this component of the summand, give only 0 here. So you can remove that. They only remain that. And then it is in C prime. So you apply this one and you get 1. So you get here, you get the dimension of C. So it's equal to sum for x square norm of x s till x y sum for the simple square norm. So this is the dimension of C, sum for x here, square norm of x, s till x, y. But you can again apply, now you can apply again 30. So this is equal to 1 by equation 30 again. Since x is in the centralizer of C prime, and y, where is y? Y is in C. You don't care about y. C is the total category. We know that x is in the centralizer of C prime. X is in the centralizer of C, more precisely in this intersection, but in particular here. And y is any object, we don't care. So we have that, so we can apply the previous equation and you get 1 here. So this is equal to dimension of C, dimension of this intersection. Okay. But so we started from 0. 0, because you apply also multiply by that and sum on 0, it's also 0. So 0 equal that. Let me write it in blue. Equal I guess in the paper they only wrote what is in blue. left the rest for the reader. So this is equal to 0, but we know that this is non-zero, this is non-zero. Contradiction, which is a contradiction since the categorical dimension of a fusion category is non-zero. The categorical dimension of a fusion category is non-zero. So we mentioned that in subsection 2.4. So we are done. We prove that orthogonality is equivalent to be in different D prime components. Okay. So now we can conclude the proof of theorem 3.4. We know that if there is the same component, the column is the same. If there are different components, it's orthogonal. So it follows that the number of components is exactly the rank of the matrix. For some immediate reason, it follows that the function hy, where y run over the complete set of simple representative of distinct D prime component of C, run over a complete set of simple representative. So it's very long to say something is trivial. Representative of distinct D prime component of C form an orthogonal basis. Orthogonal basis. For the vector space generated by the column of the matrix S tilde index, where we identify the column with the function. Vector space spanned by the column of S tilde index D. This completes the proof of theorem 3.4. So remember, this theorem 3.4 is very famous because it implies that the reformulation of non-degeneracy has so we have, let me yeah. With the fact that the centralizer, so non-degeneracy, means that the S tilde matrix is invertible by definition. But this famous theorem we just proved here reformulate the non-degeneracy into the fact that the centralizer is trivial. It's a consequence of this result regarding the rank of this S tilde index D matrix and this component. Yeah, we already discussed that. Okay, So now we can move to the proof of another theorem. So the proof we left also. Theorem 3.10. So what this theorem is saying here. So let me recall. So you take a braided fusion category and two braided fusion subcategory, and remember we have identities regarding their dimension, intersection with centralizer, etc. So let's see the braided fusion category. And let B, D, B fusion subcategory. Then, first point, we have a dimension, category of the dimension of B intersect the centralizer of D times the dimension of D equal dimension of D intersection centralizer of B times dimension of B. In particular, dimension of D, dimension, when you take B equals C, I guess, D centralizer, equal dimension of C dimension of D intersection C prime, C centralizer. And the second point of this theorem, if C prime is included in D, then the double centralizer of D is equal to D. So this was equation 33. This was equation 34. This was equation 35. Okay. Okay. So we will start the proof today and finish it next week. Okay, so we will use an argument of Muger. So the argument follow the strategy of Muger. Muger 2003, theorem 3.2. Where the identities 34 and 35 were established in the pseudo-unitary case. Were established. So what we will show now is inspired by Muger, but more general. Because we don't assume pseudo-unitary. So established for a pseudo-unitary braided fusion category C. Oh. Fusion category C. So wait. Allô? Allô? Ah, je peux pas te parler, je suis en plein cours. Je te rappelle tout à l'heure. Hein? Allô? Je te rappelle tout à l'heure. Hein. Bisous. My father, my brother. Ok. So, pseudo-unitary. Okay. So we will apply the equation 30 and 31 in our setting. We apply equation 30 and 31 to compute what? Okay, so we will make a sum. So we will consider this xz. So you have x and z. So here x and z are x will be in D and z will be in B. So we consider that we make the sum for x simple in D and z simple in B. Make this. And we will apply 30 and 31. So we will apply, because we will apply 31 first part, 31 second part. So let's try. So first you make the sum, you make first the sum for D, you put this out, you make the sum for B, like that, xz, nothing, problem. Okay. Okay, now we apply. Okay, so we will do exactly as here. Here, so let me put another star. Say double star here. So we will do exactly as here. Then we can restrict. So this is equal to as for double star. So with 30 and 31 second part. So this is equal to what? So we know that for all the elements of D which are not in the centralizer of B, it will be 0. So we only keep the one which are in the centralizer of B. But we know that when it is in the centralizer of B, then we know by 30 that we will get 1 for the entry of the ST matrix. So you get that. So this is equal to, so this is the dimension of B. You put it out, dimension of D intersection B, B centralizer. The dimension of B, like that. Okay, so we choose this ordering. But you see, D and B plays a symmetric role, so you can just exchange the two, develop, but now with the first part like that, and you will get another number that will be the same. Rewriting the expression by changing the order summation, we obtain so here now, so with 30 and 31 first part, we obtain directly something like that. Dimension of D, dimension of B intersection D prime. So we get this equal to this, which is exactly what we want to show here. Okay, so thus proving identity 30. Now, for identity 34, now take B equal to C. If you take B equal to C, you deduce directly identity 34. So it's immediate. You take B equal to C here, you get this, okay, and B equals C. So this is D prime alone, because C is the entire category. We deduce identity 34. Finally, for identity 35, finally, suppose the centralizer of C is included in D, then we have the following. So, okay. So we know that dimension of D, dimension of centralizer of D is equal to dimension of C, dimension of centralizer of C by 34 with the assumption. Because we know we have this 34, we know that C prime is included in D, so this is only C prime. So by 34 with D containing C prime. Okay, and then, but this is equal to, and that we will explain why, dimension of centralizer of D times dimension of the double centralizer of D. And why this is true here is because D is a subcategory of C. This implies the centralizer of C is a subcategory of the centralizer of D. So, so you apply. Apply 34 with D prime containing C prime. Okay, so you get exactly this equal this, but with D prime, so prime, double prime. So you get this. So by going through C dimension, C centralizer, you deduce that this is equal to this. You can simplify by that because they are non-zero. You get this is equal to this. But we know that D is included in the double centralizer. Since they are of same dimension, that should be the same. So this is the proof, which imply dimension of D equal dimension of D double centralizer. So dimension of D prime is non-zero, and therefore D is equal to the double centralizer of D because is included of same dimension. So we get this establish identity 35. Okay, so next time, so we will stop here. Next time we will prove theorem 3.14. I will stop here. I will not write it, but just say it orally. So a fusion, so yeah. In fact, I just need to say that theorem 3.14 is the identity 34, but with the Frobenius bound dimension. I am not saying that we don't assume pseudo-unitary. If it's pseudo-unitary, by definition, you have this identity with Frobenius bound dimension. But if it is not pseudo-unitary, a priori, you don't know. You cannot deduce this identity for the Frobenius bound dimension because it's not pseudo-unitary. So this is the main point. This is what this theorem will prove. So I will recall that next time. But we will stop here because it's time, I guess. Okay.